Hi, welcome to this in-service regarding stuttering. Today we are mainly going to focus on the persistence and recovery of stuttering. Although many of you are aware that recovery can be difficult, hopefully you will gain a new perspective in this matter.
Feel free to ask any questions along the way. We want this to be as informative as possible, but also applicable to your own life. To start this presentation, we want to provide you with some statistics regarding the onset and recovery of stuttering across the lifespan. Some children begin to stutter as early as 2 years of age, although it is hard to differentiate normal developmental disfluencies as a result of language learning versus actual stuttering. Majority of children are formally diagnosed as stutterers by 3 years of age. It has been reported that for children with developmental stuttering, 85% of cases start before 3.5 years of age. That being said, it is also true that if children begin stuttering before age 3, they may be more likely to spontaneous recovery. This is especially true for girls. There appears to be a higher incidence of stuttering for boys than for girls due to maturity rates. Furthermore, of those that continue to stutter, another 43% recover by age 14.
Although it is clear that recovery can happen at any point across the lifespan, spontaneous recovery is typically achieved within the first 3 years post-onset. Beyond this point, most receive some sort of intervention. Some approaches used in intervention include direct and indirect strategies aimed to alter children's stuttering behaviors, whereas later techniques such as fluency shaping and stutter modification address adult stuttering. Regardless of the age onset, recovery can be individualized. Persistence, defined as continued presence of stuttering in one's speech, is also determined on an individual basis, similar to recovery. Studies show that persistence is linked with severity of stuttering in later childhood, but is typically not considered before age 8, as children are still in the process of learning proper language output. If a child has severe stuttering at age 8, about 50% will continue to stutter beyond the teenage years. Some research states that severity level at age 8 is only current means of determining whether stuttering persists in adulthood, whereas other research considers the possibility that there may be other factors involved. The other factors possibly related to persistence are family history, gender, age onset, duration of stuttering history, and trends in stuttering behaviors. Such trends include presence of speech-language disorders over time, impaired phonological and expressive language skills, repetitions of multi-units, increased rate of repetition, and longer proportions of prolongations and blocks. Regardless of age to which stuttering may persist, many adults, even elderly persons, have reported self-recovery. This leads us to ponder whether recovery is possibly beyond the teenage years, and if so, how does one go about achieving it? Of course, this is why you're all here. You want to know what can be done to improve your speech. Well, sit down tight because we are about to dive into the reasons so many elderly claim to be free of stuttering.
Before we reveal the reasons related to recovery, we would like to bring to your attention some famous people who deal with the very same challenges you face. Among the top 10 are James Earl Jones, star of Sandlot and Star Wars, and the voice of Mufasa in Lion King; Emily Blunt from Devil Wears Prada; Marilyn Monroe; Winston Churchill; Carly Simon, a singer; John Stossel, co-anchor of 2020; Annie Glenn, wife of Senator and astronaut John Glenn; Nicholas Brendan from Married with Children; Bob Love, a basketball player; and King George VI, as depicted in the King's Speech. There are many more stutterers who receive media attention and have gone on to live successful, happy lives. We wanted to share this topic specifically with you as college students because you are at a point in your lives where careers are being decided, and it's important to know that whether you stutter or recover from stuttering, you can be anything, do anything, accomplish anything, and succeed at anything you want.
We will now proceed with the different type of methods that lead to recovery. There are two mainstream approaches used to address stuttering. These include the traditional therapeutic approach that modifies the disfluency and the conventional therapeutic approach that targets the emotional components associated with stuttering along the disfluencies.
Among the traditional approaches, there are two well-established theoretical practices. Charles Van Riper developed stuttering modification as a way to address stuttering by focusing on changing the stuttering behavior themselves in order to make sure that stuttering is easier, but not necessarily eliminate stuttering. On the other hand, Barry Guitar created fluency shaping in order to teach strategies to become more fluent by systematically building a new pattern of speech that parallels normal production. Stuttering modification is highly interactive and client-specific. It focuses on mastery and control of stuttering through awareness of where the speech structures, that is the lips, teeth, tongue, and jaw, are relative to space, a concept known as proprioception. In traditional approaches, the key is to establish smooth speech in therapy, transfer that to communication outside of speech, and then maintain that level of fluency. In stuttering modification, the establishment and transfer stages happen simultaneously. Van Riper also liked to implement voluntary stuttering into his therapy sessions. He would require clients to stutter on purpose on words they might not otherwise stutter on. The purpose of voluntary stuttering is to reduce fear and anxiety about stuttering. It helps reinforce that the person who stutters has control over fluent or stuttered speech, and is a good introduction for implementation of other techniques. In stuttering modification therapy, Van Riper taught 3 stages for correcting or working through a block. In therapy, a block referred to any stuttering moment. So the first strategy is called the cancellation, which is used post-block. It is essentially a do-over of the stuttered word. The stuttered word is reproduced in an easy, tension-free, continuous manner. This is taught using a sequence of steps to help the client easily produce the word aloud. The steps are: complete the moment of stuttering, stop, do not proceed to the next word, pause for about 3 seconds, pantomime the stuttering moment, silently repeat the word in a highly conscious manner, whisper the word, and then finally replicate the stuttering block as realistically as possible, but with ease and lack of tension. Or repeat the word loudly but slowly with a high degree of control. The goal behind using cancellation is to get the person who stutters not to run away from the disfluency, but rather to confront it. Van Riper believed that by reducing emotional panic and struggle, the client could desensitize themselves. Others sometimes refer to cancellations as punishments for stuttering. Either way, they seem to be effective in gaining some control over words typically stuttered on. The second strategy is termed pull-out, because you would use this in the middle of a block. Within a block, the stutterer becomes aware that he or she is stuck and starts to gradually shift into a fluent production. Typically, a within-word block will occur as a result of excessive air pressure or lack of airflow, lack of movement, tight adductor laryngeal tension, or inappropriate articulator posturing. These motoric parameters must be altered in order to come out of the block. The sequence taught to pull out of a block are: freeze while in the block, reduce inappropriate tension levels, initiate air, initiate voice, and then initiate gradual movement. The steps with practice allow a stutterer to come out of the block and produce the rest of the word. The third is called a preparatory set, because you use it pre-block. At first, this may be a difficult concept to grasp, as it requires one to be aware of when they will stutter. Replacing the old preparatory set with a new preparatory set relies upon good ability to anticipate the problem. The old preparatory set usually includes elevated muscle tension and a fixed articulatory posture that isolates the first sound from the rest of the word. A new preparatory set has articulation in a state of rest, that is, a lack of tension, continuous movement from initial to following sound, and immediate airflow for the sound.
In comparison, fluency uses a strict hierarchy of task difficulty, starting with words, then phrases, moving to sentences, and eventually connected speech. Because the focus is on mastery of fluency, each step has to be mastered before moving to the next. This is done using natural fluency in a structured, positive reinforcement environment. The client moves through a hierarchy of steps while accomplishing a hierarchy of individualized targets as well. Common fluency shaping targets are phonetary-based targets, which include easy onset and continuous voicing. Respiration-based targets that incorporate full deep breaths, prephonetary airflow, and continuous airflow. Articulation-based targets comprised of light articulation context, full articulatory movements, and proprioception. And finally, higher order targets, each which consists of modified rate, rhythmic speaking, and phrasing or pausing and blending. As for the conventional approaches, the most commonly used is the COMS model. COMS stands for Cognitive, Affective, Linguistic, Motor, and Social. The cognitive component addresses the thoughts, perceptions, awareness, and understanding. The affective factor is constructed of feelings, emotions, and attitude. Linguistic involves language skills, language movements. The social element includes the coping with the reactions of listener and adjusting to environmental situations. All these factors can be combined or used in isolation in order to address the fluency needs for each client. Research has also discovered that college students have found certain factors that have helped fluency. These consist of speaking more slowly, which is the most helpful factor, thinking before speaking, attaining greater self-confidence, increasing their awareness of the problem, general relaxation, and speaking more deliberately. In general, there are some behaviors that are believed to lead to recovery. These behaviors, ordered from the most to least commonly cited, are speaking with modified speech pattern that includes speech rate, speech formulation, and speech breathing, motivation, environmental factors, change in attitude towards self, and change in attitude towards the speech problem as a whole.
Self-recovery without exposure to intervention techniques has been the focus of research regarding stuttering and recovery post-adolescence. Many elderly claim to have recovered from stuttering without ever receiving speech treatment. More research needs to be conducted in order to determine if they have in fact truly recovered or developed coping mechanisms that hide their stutter. Interviews reveal that some elderly who claim to be cured of stuttering admit to avoiding certain words or situations that would cause them to stutter. Our hope is that you may implement some of the strategies mentioned in the therapy approaches discussed and not resort to avoidance strategies, as this will lead to increased fear and resentment. Ultimately, we encourage reduction of anxiety related to stuttering and a positive self-concept. These factors will largely contribute to your ability to speak fluently.
As well as you know, there are stereotypes about stuttering that should be eliminated. People who stutter are as intelligent and well-adjusted as non-stutterers. Don't assume that you are prone to be nervous, anxious, fearful, or shy. You exhibit the same amount of personality traits as those who do not stutter. Stuttering is not the result of emotional conflict or fearfulness. Also, there are no deficits in your communication skills. Both you and non-stutterers possess same amount of ambitions and drive that will allow you to enter into leadership opportunities and can be recognized for promotions. You will have good and bad days, just the same as any other non-stutterer would have. At a job interview, it is important to consider the actual job requirements and conditions before ruling out an opportunity for employment because of the speech impediment. Do not feel forced to keep stuttering a secret, as this will place you under enormous stress and impact your own performance as well as that of your peers. For those who don't know, there are various outlets offered to those who stutter. You are surrounded by support groups and organization centers that offer you help on the subject. Feel free to visit these support groups and centers at any time for further information. They can be found through district cities, college bulletin boards, and community areas. The National Association website, www.nsa.org, and the Stuttering Foundation website, stutteringhelp.org, offer local support group meetings depending on the area. Local support groups are a proven way to build self-confidence, practice speaking in a safe environment, and explore new ways to cope with stuttering. You can even start your own support group. We hope that this Inservice has provided you with further information on the persistence and recovery of stuttering. Thank you for your time and attention throughout this presentation.
If there are any more questions, please feel free to ask us now or approach us afterwards. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.